All right, welcome back to the Elias Macko Show. Third hour of the program, you got us straight through until noon. We begin by taking a look at housing. Now, residential housing starts have fallen much more in Quebec than other Canadian provinces this year. This according to the Montreal Economic Institute and their data. Now, between January 1st and November 30th, there were just shy of 30,000 residential housing starts in Quebec. Quebec experiencing the steepest decline in this country, far ahead of second place Newfoundland and Labrador. Let's find out a little bit more about these numbers and what's behind them. Renaud Brossard joins us, Senior Director of Communications at the public policy think tank, the Montreal Economic Institute. Renaud, welcome back to the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
All right, what are the alarm bells that we need to be hearing about here? What part of the data here is concerning to you the most?
Well, what's concerning to me is that we're just not going in the right direction. We've seen rapid increases in the cost of housing. It's becoming clearer and clearer this is primarily a supply issue, whereas we haven't built enough to meet demand. And while other parts of the country are building a bit more or trying to stay at least at the same levels, in Quebec, this is down 35%. So instead of building about 42,000 units like we were last year, we've started building about 30,000 units this year. Now, just to put those numbers in perspective, these 29,960 or roughly 30,000 units, that's about as much as what the city of Vancouver alone has had in terms of housing starts this year.
So all of Quebec versus just Vancouver, it's the same number.
Exactly. I mean, it's plus or minus 200 homes, which at this point is not really a lot. And exactly, it shows that we're just not headed in the right direction. It also seems that there's a different way that mayors in other large Canadian cities versus those of large Quebec cities see housing. In Vancouver, Ken Sim, the new mayor, sees a need to build more housing, to make it easier to build more housing because, well, with the prices that they've seen in Vancouver, they know that there is an issue with supply that they need to build more. In Toronto, Olivier Chow has had the same sort of reaction as well, saying that there needs to be more housing, that developers are part of the solution. But in Montreal, it seems that developers are still seen as the enemy when it comes to building more housing.
So I just want to highlight this. Are you right now pointing the finger directly at Projet Montréal and Mayor Valérie Plante as one of the primary reasons we're falling behind on housing?
Absolutely. I mean, they're not the only ones. Look, there's mayors in other large Quebec cities that have had the same issue. There's some opposition party. I can think of Repensons Lévis in suburban Quebec City that was that was campaigning or at least heavily criticizing a 3-story apartment building project. But in Montreal alone, we've seen that this has been a significant issue. You know, since Mayor Plante took office, her administration has been responsible for blocking about 24,000 units of housing. That's 24,000 homes that could have helped house Montrealers, that could have helped bring those prices down, and that simply haven't been built because of decisions from her administration. So
on this program, I did an interview with Valérie Plante, and it was all about housing. And I was taken aback because I tried to get her to talk about the city's role in the housing crisis. And the general line was, it's not us. It's provincial government. It's federal government. Those are the real hangups. We're doing everything we can. And obviously I can just point to Blue Bonnets, and say they've had that land for 6 years. Nothing's happened. I just want you to put in perspective for our listeners. What are municipalities in charge of? What are the direct things that municipalities can be doing that we can throughout Quebec that we could be doing right now to fix that, to get from where developers are the enemy to developers are people we should collaborate with?
So there's a couple of things, but the first one is municipalities are the ones responsible for giving building permits. And a lot of times those decisions as to whether or not they're going to give building permits are rather arbitrary. So let's take in Montreal the project to build some social housing associated with the children's hospital site. Now, that was supposed to be a 20-story tower. There were some disputes with the developer, between the developer and the city, as to the number of elevators or various technical elements of the building. And basically, the developer could not see a way to make money. So what they said is, look, like we can't really do it the way that you guys are talking about. And the city's response to this was to cut 16 stories for the building. Jeez. So instead of being a 20-story building, it's now only a 4-story building that's allowed on that side. We've seen the same thing happen next to the Champlain Bridge, where Promo, a local developer, had a project for a 37-story tower. There was a petition of local residents, 700 local residents, that signed a petition saying that this needs to go forward. The public consultation office says this needed to go forward. This is right next to a REM station. What did City Hall do? Well, instead of 37 stories, it's now 26. Now that's 11 stories of housing that were canceled. So there's a lot of decisions like that that have been counterproductive when it comes to housing. But then there's the issue of how we develop certain districts. So the Brisbane-Aventura district, that's right across the canal from Griffintown. Developers saw potential for 15,000 housing units there. Well, when the city looked at it first said it's going to be about 4,000. Now we're up to 7,000 something. There's hope that maybe it'll reach 9,000. But developers have potential for 15,000 units. Every single housing unit that doesn't get built there, because City Hall decided to sort of artificially cap the potential for that area, is one more housing unit that could have helped solve the high cost of housing. So it's a lot of different decisions like these that could that are unfortunately going the wrong direction, but that could have helped make housing more affordable in the long run in this city.
Renaud, can we do both? And when I say do both, I mean build units like that impressive number of 15,000 units, let's say for Bridge Bonaventure, but also make it livable, because the counterpoint that I would have in my mind is what happened in Griffintown, where they built, and let's call it as it is. When they were building like crazy, Denis Coderre was mayor, and they were building like crazy in Griffintown, rents didn't go up. I mean, because we were building so much. But at the end of the day, we ended up with block after block of nondescript condo after nondescript condo, and not, the green spaces and the schools and some other things were left out of the plan. Can we do both and still have developers on board?
I'm sure we can find the middle ground somewhere in between those two. But let's not forget, there's also, even it's whatever the cost of the unit we build, it's something that's going to help. There's been some studies about this that showed that even if you were to build 100 new penthouses, even with that, there's a displacement effect that occurs because people are leaving some housing units empty to move into those new housing units. And through that displacement effect, for every 100 units we build, even at the top end of the market, there's at least 45 that are freed up at levels that are affordable for people below the median income. And of those 45, 17 are at levels affordable for people in the poorest 20% of society. So this idea that we need to dictate exactly what gets built and exactly what price point it gets built at is counterproductive when we look at those numbers, when we look at the displacement effect. So sure, maybe there's a way to do things a little bit differently, but in itself, building more is our solution.
Renaud, was a couple hours ago on the show. We were talking about housing at another point, and I said something eerily similar to what you said, just on the type of housing, right? People that when you say the word luxury, you use the word penthouse, but if you say luxury, people are automatically against it. Even if you've got data and studies that show just build the housing, it doesn't matter what type it is. Renaud, we got to leave it there. Thanks so much.
It's always a pleasure. Have a good one.
Renaud Brossard from the Montreal Economic Institute.